fancy. Production values.
That's what you get when you have a designer on the call. Hey guys, welcome to, there's Tim. Hey Tim. Welcome to our November listening club, which is taking place in December because last week was a holiday. So thanks for joining us. If you are watching this live or on the, or rather, if you're watching live, please feel free to comment. We do see those as they come in, so we'd love to get your input. And if you're watching on the replay, still comment because we do look at those and we love to hear your thoughts even after the fact. What else normally gets said during this? Sorry, I'm not usually the host, so we have a group on Facebook. So if you are interested in participating with us on these types of things, or we also have a weekly support group discussion, we'd love to have you. So you can check it out there. You do have to sign up for the Zoom link via an external form to get on the Saturday call, but you can always ask me about it. I'm happy to chat. We also have a Patreon. So if you like what we do, you can support us for as little as $2 a month. And we always appreciate your support, in whether it's monetary or otherwise, because we're just a small group of dedicated artists doing this in our free time for free. So any little bit helps because we do have bills to pay even still. So, and with that, we also have this type of discussion once a month. So we do a monthly music listening club. We do a monthly movie watching club, and we have a quarterly book club. So if you'd like to participate in any of those, join the Facebook group because all the information is there on the guides tab with all of our past picks as well. So we'd like to hear your thoughts on those too. If you didn't get to participate, feel free to chime in. And with that, we can go ahead and start. So thank you for joining me and listening to this very interesting album by one of my favorite bands. So first thing I want to start with is, had you guys heard it before?
Just the big hit. In fact, I didn't even know that was a Green Day song.
Oh, was it? Is that Good Riddance?
Good Riddance.
Yeah, but I know it by the subtitle. What's the subtitle?
Time of Your Life.
Yeah, that. I just thought that was a one-hit wonder 90s band. I had no idea it was Green Day.
Yeah, very fascinating album, huh?
Yeah.
I had heard this album before, and I do like this album. It's not my favorite Green Day album, but it is their most interesting. So I understand the pick.
Yeah, I agree. It's not my favorite either, but I do like a lot of the songs on it, and it is a very fascinating album. What about you, Tim? Had you heard it before?
Not that I'm aware of. I think I heard some singles from their earlier albums, but I'm pretty sure I never heard anything from those. No.
Gotcha. Yeah, I remember very clearly in middle school when this came out, and the singles were all over the radio. I must have heard Hitchin' a Ride like a bazillion times. So, second question, did you guys like it?
I like the idea behind it, the way I thought of it when I got to the end of it. And I have to clarify, I've only listened to this once, beginning to end. So I haven't listened to the albums before and after, because in this case, that would be great to do. But I had an idea of it at the end that I thought it was like a really cool idea of what they were trying to do. So that's my answer to that question. And Beckett, had they ever had like a completely acoustic tune like Time of Your Life before on any album? Yeah.
He plays it acoustic when they play it in concert. Oh, you mean did they have other songs? No, this was the first.
It was the first time they did a fully acoustic song. So yeah.
This was their first time doing a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And this is
this
like, but this is like
one-
their fifth album, right? This isn't like the first 2 or 3. It's like 5, right?
Yeah, this is their 5th studio album. It was their 3rd with Reprise, and the way it Billy kind of pitched it as an experimental album. And so basically I read that the recording process, as opposed to previous albums where they'd sit down and kind of like curate the songs, and if they got off track, they'd be like, all right, let's get back to the album. This one, they were just like, anything goes, whatever comes up, let's just try it out and see if we want to put it in. So what about Tim and Rebecca? Did you guys like it?
I think I said when I
that's
said
right.
it that, yeah, I like this album. It's not my favorite of their albums, but
What is your favorite one?
probably Dookie, if I'm being completely honest. It's kind of a classic, kind of has a bit of nostalgia for me.
That's their first album, isn't it?
It's their first
Their
on
third.
Reprise.
Yeah.
First on Reprise Records.
Oh, okay.
So their first kind of like major studio release. But yeah, they had 2 studio albums before that.
Kind of the first one that I think anybody really knew who they were.
Mhm.
Kind of the start of their rise to fame.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It launched
wait,
them
so
into the
Dookie
stratosphere.
Dookie wasn't their first album. It was their first major label album. So this is
Yeah.
only 2 albums after Dookie.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah. It was this. No, it was Dookie, and then Insomniac, and then this one. And if you look on the Wikipedia, there's another one before that as to releases, but it's not. It wasn't released in the U.S.
Okay. Interesting.
So let's see. What do I have on these slides? Yeah. So here we have just the general information. This is the back cover.
Yeah.
And the story about this album cover is actually quite interesting. They had a bunch of people come up with ideas, and just nothing was clicking. And so one of Billy Armstrong's friends actually designed this. And he had done a few covers for them before. And
Wow.
he knew nothing except what it was called. He knew it was Nimrod. That's all the information he had to go off of. And I love the concept of these yearbook photos with, the sticker over their faces.
I didn't get the sense from the front cover that it was yearbook photos. I thought it was just some like cheesy older people, but
So
yearbook photos from back when people wore ties.
So interestingly, if you go back to the front, those are not yearbook photos. They were designed to kind of look like them, but those are actually the portraits of Charles Best and Frederick Banting, who are the people who discovered insulin.
Who he didn't know who they were. He found
He didn't know who they were. It's not a concept on anything. It's just he pulled them from an encyclopedia.
Yeah, he found them in an encyclopedia, and so that's where he got these photos. But yeah, these are all yearbook photos, and actually there is a promotional like sleeve release where it's like it looks like a yearbook, and then inside there's more of this. And actually 3 of these are the band members. They're actual yearbook photos, and then the other ones are from the 50s.
The lower right, the bass player.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So I thought I have a Mike Dirnt bass. My electric bass is his.
I think you have mentioned that before.
Yeah. Hey, so I got to mention something else. The studio they did this at is literally a block from where I lived in East Hollywood before I moved to Van Nuys.
Oh.
And I lived there for a year before I found it because it's kind of it's on Melrose, but it's sort of designed as most record studios are to not be, it doesn't look like it's a studio. You have to sort of really pay attention. So It was recorded a block from my house, although I didn't live there at the time.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I mean, these guys are from the Bay Area, but I know that they recorded a lot of at least their later major albums down here. But the reason that I wanted to talk about this one is because you can see on the right, the critic ratings were pretty good overall, but this album was not a commercial success, at least not judging by, their past work. It
Even
released
with that big hit.
What's that?
Even with that big hit.
Yeah. I think that kind of, I'm not sure.
I think it was released as a single after the fact.
Yeah.
Even
Well,
looking
there
at
were
this, I can see that like it was 2 years later.
Yeah, there were 4 singles released from this album, and Good Riddance was one of them.
Okay.
Let me see what.
Well, I mean, I guess I'm assuming it's really different than the first 2 albums that everybody would have known about. Is that a fair assumption?
Yeah, absolutely.
Probably
And
why.
that's definitely part of why. It only hit number 10 on the Billboard, whereas Dookie was at number 1 for a while.
Yeah.
And basically it kind of is attributed to the fact that this album is so different that it didn't do as well because people were expecting, more of the same, which Insomniac really wasn't like Dookie either. It was a lot more straightforward punk though than this one. So
yeah, that makes sense.
This is such an interesting album to me because it's simultaneously like shaped exactly where Green Day went from here on out and why they became popular a lot later on, like with American Idiot and things along those lines.
Mm-hmm.
But also it completely alienated like their old fans.
Yeah.
And so
A lot of
this weird middle
Yeah.
turning point where like nobody knew what to do with them.
Yeah. A lot of their kind of dedicated punk following from the Bay Area was really mad about this album. They kind of dropped them after that. And then the one after that did even worse.
Yeah. So I want to, can I, Tim, you missed this. I'm like under the weather. I just wanted to say my piece about this while I still have energy. So I have to do this chronologically. As I was listening, I'm listening to the first 4 or 5 songs and I'm thinking this sounds just like Dookie. Why did Becca pick this album? Right. And I was ready to stop. And then through the magic of, what do you call it? Bluetooth headphones. I listened to it while I was doing chores. And then it got more and more interesting. And then when I got to the end of the whole album, it was like, this is like they're trying to do London Calling by the Clash or the White Album by the Beatles, but it's out of balance. And that's all I could think of, like in the 5 or 10 minutes. I basically got my record producer hat on and it's out of balance, right? And that's all I could think of. And then I thought about it more and then I realized that, yeah, the reason it's out of balance is because both London Calling and the White Album have very few songs that sound like the albums before them, right? Especially London Calling, man. There's like nothing on London Calling that sounds like the Clash's first album, right? It's just total 180 degrees different, right? And so then I read on the Wikipedia page for this that Billy Armstrong apparently was quoted somewhere saying we were trying to do London Calling, right? And then he also said, and so what we're going to do is like half of the loud songs and half of the quiet songs. Well, for them, the loud songs is the stuff that I thought sounded like Dookie, which is like kind of betraying the concept of doing a freaky album. And I think that's where it went wrong, at least for me. Like this could have been magnificent if it wasn't referencing their earlier work so much. And it was more focused on, the weird new stuff. And then I thought, well, what would I do to fix it? And I would like, the first thing I thought is like, there's 18 tracks on here because it's CD era stuff. You could put a whole bunch of music out. And if I was a producer, I would just look at all the stuff that sounds like it's from Dookie and just cut it in half and sequence it differently so it doesn't start the album. And I think that, they're so close to doing London Calling, but right. And I think it would have been such an easy fix, but
I think they were almost scared.
Easy for me to say. What's that?
Yeah, I think they were almost scared.
Yeah.
So like to change up their routine, because that was the whole point of this album, was they were bored with what they were doing and they really wanted to make a change with it. They had a lot of life changes, like both with becoming mainstream and just in their personal lives, getting married and having families and whatnot. So they were really looking to go to a new direction. But I think this album suffers because they were too scared to go in a new direction. So it kind of eases you into like this new direction as opposed to just dropping you into something different. And so it does. It feels really off kilter. Where like you started and you're like, yeah, this is Green Day. And then you're like, wait.
Out of balance. right? Like
Yeah.
imagine, I mean, you guys may not know the White Album, but it's a really freaky album. And if it had songs that sounded like they should have been on Sgt. Pepper, it would have just been weird, right? It would have been out of balance. It would have been, wait, what band are you trying to be? And in fact, they got, I don't know if these guys were using their same producer from before, but the Beatles didn't have George Martin produce the White Album, right? So yeah, it's just out of balance. And it's like it's magnificent in concept, but it's also, to borrow a phrase from somebody else, it's a magnificently missed opportunity. They were like this close to nailing it, I think.
Interesting. Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned if you were the producer, you would have done some editing. The producer they worked with on this one is one of their longtime producers, and he kind of just lets them do whatever they want. He doesn't really rein them in at all. Whereas other producers on some of the other albums, do a little bit more of that.
And it's not even rein them in. It's just sort of like figure out what you're doing. Like one of the things he could have done is just say, you have an amazing album here. It's out of the other songs don't fit, right? And so what can we do with that to make it fit, So anyway.
So did you guys have a favorite track?
Platypus.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Yeah.
I'm a song guy. Time of Your Life. That's the best song I've heard from this band. So just because it's just a freaking great song. But there's a bunch.
Yeah, I have to agree with that every time. And I try to figure out whether it's a nostalgia thing or whether it's because it kind of just comes out of nowhere. Even on an album that's been slowly like transitioning you into something different and has like strings and horns and all of that going on. Good Riddance just kind of like shoots through like a beam of light out of a pile. Other than that, like I really like Hitching a Ride. I also like Platypus.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. I think it's probably got to be Time of Your Life. It has to be Good Riddance. It's just an interesting song.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like all the songs on the album, but like, yeah, I think if I were to pick a favorite, probably between Good Riddance and Hitchin' a Ride. Those are the ones that they still play in concert. I don't think they play any of these other ones.
I was just thinking about, I think I do have favorites of the real punky, loud, could have been on Dookie songs. And is King for a Day the one where there's a little section where it kind of sounds like Lemmy from Motorhead? Is that the one that does that? I think I liked of the up-tempo punky songs. I like King for a Day.
That one has a much more kind of ska feel. That's the one with the horns on it. I love King for a Day too. It's such a fun song.
Thinking of the wrong. There's one of the heavier punk song towards the last third of the album where I thought, oh my God, he's like kind of, and it was just in one section of the song where he's kind of shouting like Lemmy for a little bit.
You might be thinking of Prosthetic Head. I think that the order on the last two songs should be reversed. This album should end with Good Riddance. But
oh yeah, don't even get me started about the song order. It's just like, yeah, no, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Prosthetic Head is a much more kind of very hardcore punk.
I didn't do a deep dive on their lyrics from their previous albums, but the lyrical shift is also different. And I know that it's a lyrical shift because I read about it. But I didn't do a deep dive to actually how do they compare? Like, is it going from like a more punk angry into like a more personal?
Yes, it does. I gotta be honest, I'm not a huge fan of Insomniac just in general. I've listened to it a few times, but like really the only song I like on it is Brain Stew. The rest of it is just kind of like in one ear out the other. But yeah, no, it's very different. They went in a much more personal direction. I think Billy Joe was kind of grappling with some internal things, and so he put a lot of himself into the lyrics. And then obviously the band in general, like he has been quoted as saying that Nice Guys Finish Last is about their dealings with like record producers and advertisers and how everybody's like so fake and two-faced.
I love the line of don't hit yourself on the back, you might break your spine.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, I missed that.
Yeah, it's worth digging into the lyrics because, you know, I know they're not touted as like great lyricists of, you know, music or something, but he's very talented in the way he writes lyrics.
It's
You know,
also
as punk writers go, I was actually very impressed. I mean, nobody's going to mistake him for being, you know, think of a great lyricist. You know, he's, you know, but I think as punk lyricists go, I think he's very good.
Mhm.
More literate than at least half the punk, you know, writers out there.
Yeah, plus he's got range. He can do good riddance. I mean, come on. That's a effing great song. Paul McCartney would take that, you know?
it's also interesting because I'm pretty sure, well, I know that Good Riddance was written even before Dookie. But I think quite a few of these songs were written prior to like the other albums. So it's less of a turning around in him as a writer and more of him allowing himself out in a way,
Yeah.
Coming out of the closet.
coming out of the closet.
Well,
Oh, I
he had
forgot
already
the
done
most-
that.
That's true. He had actually already done that.
I forgot the most important thing I have to say about this album, the drummer. So I really firmly believe there are no great bands without great drummers. And Trey Cool is a complete badass. There is no human being on the planet that would be a better drummer for Green Day than him, right? He's kind of like a one of one, kind of like there's just no Beatles without Ringo, no Rolling Stones without Charlie, no Led Zeppelin without Bonham. There is like no Green Day without him. What he's doing is really, really difficult to do at high volume, at really quick tempos, and he's keeping things simple. Because usually people who can like, it's a stupid technical drummer thing, but usually people who have that much endurance and stamina and can play that much would play too much, right? They would start making it a rush tune with like lots of drum fills and stuff. And he keeps it really, really simple, like Dave Grohl did in Nirvana, but really, really super effective. There's nobody that can replace that guy, right? So they have to make sure he doesn't die if they want a career, because they're not
Yeah,
going to.
that being said, I was impressed with the musicianship of all three of them on there. And the reason that I can say that is because the production is so damn good. I could hear all three instruments and I could hear the vocals very clearly on every track. It's one of the best sounding albums I've heard in this genre of music ever. I mean, I was really amazed at how good it sounded.
Yeah,
That's cool.
I hadn't thought about that. That's interesting. I have to go listen.
Oh, and you know what? And you know what I said about the lyrics. The other thing that I think is really cool is I think Billy Joe Armstrong is a better vocalist than half the punk singers out there. He writes good melodies. You know, I mean, I don't think people who haven't listened to them, who just know them as Green Day, I don't think they realize the amount of the high level of craft that's going on. I mean, the songwriting is really, really strong. And,
Yeah.
you know, you don't typically expect to hear that in this genre. And I'm using the term genre loosely because, you know, this is not just a punk album. There's a whole bunch of different stuff going on here, you know, and I don't really care for the more poppy punk stuff. But the stuff that's very straightforward punk, I dug the shit out of. You know, it's a great album to drive to. I really got a kick out of that.
You should, if you like their more punky stuff, you should listen to their first two albums.
Yeah,
Super
I'll do that.
straightforward punk. Yeah. 1039 Sloppy Hours, just very, very straightforward punk. Kerplunk, they did a couple of new things with, but neither of them are like Dookie.
Yeah. You know, speaking, I referenced London Calling, and if anybody on this call hasn't listened to the whole album, I really recommend it. It's long like this. It was released in the days of the LP, so it had to be a 2-record set. But it's like a punk band kind of doing this, right? Instead of being all punky, there's like rockabilly stuff, there's early rock stuff, there's reggae, there's ska, there's R&B, you know? And but it's got that sort of like in your face kind of energy. And it's interesting that both albums I was referencing, both the White Album and London Calling, were very, very, the creation was very, very tumultuous. You know, Ringo quit in the middle of the White Album and George Martin wasn't allowed to produce. And then the Clash had the producer from Mott the Hoople, Guy Stevens, and he was the kind of producer who would like throw things in the studio, right? And so I didn't read enough of the wiki to know if it was really bad in that kind of sense, but it's interesting. I wonder if like I'm not saying it should have been, you know, contentious and it would have made it a better record, but it's just interesting about how hard it is to do that. So Becca, I think, was talking about like, hey, it's, you know, we're trying to, you know, have an album that will sell or whatever it is you're specifically mentioning. That's really, really hard to do. And then for the Beatles to come up with the White Album, for the Clash to come up with London Calling, it was like really, really contentious and difficult and probably not fun to be in the room with.
Yeah, looking at this screen, I'm looking at the production, and I don't know any of these people except for Chris Lord-Alge. And now I understand why this album sounds so fucking good, because
Yeah.
he's one of the best in the business.
I missed that. Look at it. There he is, the man himself. Yeah. That's but you know, he's the only one that mixed it though. So they brought him in for mixing, which that makes total sense. I was looking at the thing above and seeing, oh, there's a lot of names on here. This was maybe a disaster to mix, but it was just a bunch of different engineers, probably because it was a long project.
It was like something on the lines of 4 months.
But they wrote about 30 songs, or like they were working on about 30 songs for this album and narrowed it down to the 18 that ended up on it.
Yeah.
So but yeah, I'm not sure about how they were to work with in the studio. I haven't read anything about them being like contentious or their producers or anything like that, or destructive. I know in other places they were very destructive, especially in
the marketing team did not like them.
No.
Yeah, I think they were the thing I read on the wiki was that they were staying at the Sunset Marquee, and Trey Poole did the Keith Moon thing and threw a television out the window. Mm-hmm. Right. So yeah. that sounds like, but that was away from the studio, but still.
Right.
It's like a rite of passage if you're staying at the Sunset Marquee, though.
They also played a show in like a record store and started throwing the records out to the crowd.
I have that. So I included this here because, it was a promotional show for the release of this album. And it says in the wiki, and who knows how accurate it is, but it says that they were upset after having read some reviewers who said that they had lost their punk edge with this album. And they completely trashed the record store. And Billy Joe spray painted stuff on the windows. They had to be escorted out by security. It was bad.
Wow. Which tower is that? Which one?
The one in Manhattan.
Yeah.
Oh,
in New York. Oh, sorry. I was assuming it was in LA.
But it's also like so bonkers to me because listening to the lyrics of this song, like the songs, it's all about marriage. Like they had all recently started families, and like this was them being like, we're tired of being on tour, let's make something else. Yeah. And I know Billy Joel Armstrong said the album was what he wanted his band to sound like, and so he views it more as like a freedom artistically. But it's so weird to have the juxtaposition of like these songs that are all like very personal and kind of about like marriage and relationships with their wives, to like throwing TVs out windows and trashing
the one track that really tripped me out because it just kind of came out of nowhere. I think the track before is Uptight. Then all of a sudden I'm hearing surf guitar. It's like Dick Dale and Link Ray.
No, Last Ride In is the instrumental, and I always find that to be also very jarring because it's just like, wait, why is this instrumental?
It's so awesome. That's one of my favorite.
It literally sounds like they were listening to Rumble and said, by Link Ray, and said, let's do something like that because it's definitely in the spirit of that time and that genre.
Do you think the eclecticness of the album is intentional and like meant to make Miguel feel off kilter?
The track order and everything?
Yeah, like the track order and just like, because as we said, it feels off balance as an album. And for me, it feels like they're trying not to get too far from where they were.
It
Or
sounds
not.
to
didn't
me
mean that the genre hopping was making it out of balance. I meant that there was too much old Green Day, right?
Right.
There was goofy stuff that kind of felt out of place. And if it was, there was less of that and it was sequenced different, because it starts off with a song that could have been on Dookie, right? And you're going, okay, here we are. And then, you know, it seems to me like the first 5 songs were like that. And then it gets weird. It's like it should have been weird from the drop, or at least from the second song. Like both White Album and London Calling start with a song that's kind of newish, but sort of in the general. And then the second song is just like goodbye, right?
Mm.
And so I don't mind that it's all over the place. I liked it much better, you know, because I thought it was going to be 18 like fast punk songs at one point. So I love that. It was just the balance of what they're trying to do versus what they were, I guess, is the balance I meant.
Got it.
I
Tim,
haven't-
you had gotten cut off. What were you saying?
I
Sorry,
don't remember now. I'm already onto a new thought.
Okay.
You know, I haven't listened to it enough to have any coherent thoughts about the order of the album. I just think it's a little bit too long. I would have chopped 3 songs. What 3 songs those would be, I don't know the album well enough to say. I know certain
which
songs
ones.
I would keep, but I would definitely chop it down. You know, I would bring that down to a nice even 40 minutes instead of the 49.
Miguel, which 3 would you remove?
I would just take all the up-tempo punky stuff and pick the best songs. Like, let's say it's 8 of them. It feels like it's 8 of them. You know, the 4 best ones stay. They get resequenced. The 4 least good songs, like songwriter songs, go. And then the sequence is rearranged to make it sound eclectic pretty much from the drop. Maybe not the first tune, but certainly the second tune.
Considering that they wrote like 30 songs while they were writing this, and a lot of the songs were written before any of their other albums and were just songs that didn't quite fit with them sonically, I wonder if they already did that. Like had pared it down and just didn't know what else to do, and we're just like, let's just release it as is. Like
We don't want to cut anymore, so let's fit every song that we can, you know.
Well, this is also CD era, because you couldn't have fit. I mean, I'm not sure you could fit this on a double album, LP, you know?
Right.
But once you had CDs, you could kind of go on. And that's where the beauty of constraints come in. I think if they were making an album or LP or a double album, that would have helped them, because they would have been limited to like, all right, it's already a double album. We have a big problem. This can't become a triple album, right? But that was a problem with everybody. Like everybody had way too many songs on their albums at this point, because you didn't have to get rid of them. The reason albums were the length they were is because you couldn't fit that much music on an album. And then you had to do a certain kind of song as the last track towards the middle of the record, because you couldn't get the bass response you would want, right? There was all kinds of limitations with the LP format, as amazing as it is. But yeah, that's part of that's not their fault. It's just CD thinking.
Yeah, I know that part of the intention behind this album was to kind of set out a new kind of direction for punk in general. It's funny that you say that Nice Guys Finish Last and Hitchin' a Ride are could have been on Dookie, because I actually disagree. I think that they sound very different from anything on Dookie, like pretty much every song on here, except for maybe a couple. But those two.
Judgment. You know that album better than me.
Yeah, those 2 specifically. Nice Guys Finish Last is very pop punk, which is a little bit different than what they had been producing before. And then Hitchin' a Ride is out of left field. Like, it's just very, very different. It's got very strong bass, a lot less guitar. It's got a different feeling to it.
I didn't think of Nice Guys Finish Last as pop punk, but I mean, I guess it could be seen as that. I just thought it was a very strong song to start the album with. And as soon as I heard it, I thought, oh, I'm going to dig this album, you know?
And then what did you think when you heard Hitchin' a Ride?
I can't remember the tune well enough to say. I want to say that I did like it. I think the album started to slow down for me gradually, and then picked up again with Platypus. you know, again, I haven't listened to it enough times to, you know, have all the stuff in my head to figure out. I just remember liking Nice Guys Finish Last, and I liked Platypus, and of course I liked Last Ride In, and I liked Jinx. Yeah, it's you know, there would be a great song or two great songs, and there'd be songs I'd be like, oh, this is okay, not great, but okay. And I didn't think there was anything that was bad on it. I didn't think there was a bad track on the whole freaking album. There was just certain albums that interested me less than what I thought were the stronger songs.
Right. Yeah, I think that with most Green Day albums, there's probably going to be something for everyone on each of them, because the ones that come, especially after this, are all very different. Like they kind of really start leaning into the weirdness. I mean, everybody is familiar with American Idiot, and that's kind of a different monster because it's a concept album. And actually, so was 21st Century Breakdown. But I think American Idiot is better. But the ones that came after that, especially like Revolution Radio and the trilogy is very weird. So it's like pretty much all of their experimental like bullshit kind of shoved together. If that interests you at all.
Yeah, I really love albums like this. I mean, if somebody held a gun to my head and ask me to tell them my favorite album of all time, it would be the White Album, just because it's a complete mess and there's like music concrete and music hall and heavy metal and it's just like all over the place. And it sounds like a band being a band, whereas previous Beatles productions, there was a lot of production, you know? And I really like that it sounds great, but it doesn't seem overproduced, if that makes any sense. But I really like the genres going all over the place.
Yeah, right. No, that definitely makes sense because some of their later albums are very overproduced. Like Father of All, that one the production is terrible.
Yeah.
Some of the songs are good, but it's like, oof.
Yeah, well, if you notice in the production, that's not a good sign.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
It's funny. The only thing that tripped me out more than Last Ride In was learning that Billie Joe Armstrong is 53 years old today. And I'm like, I thought he was 10 years younger than that. I was surprised to find out that he was that old.
Yeah, this album came out in 1997.
Yeah, and he was 25 when Dookie was released.
Yeah.
Which is the same year he got married, actually.
Yeah, see, I would have thought those guys were teenagers when that album came out. That surprised me.
Yeah.
And the oh shoot, I forgot what I was going to say. About them being in their 50s. Yeah, it's crazy because I went to go see them in concert last year, and these guys put on a hell of a show, man. And they are so energetic and like jumping around the stage. Trey Cool just does not slow down the entire show. And for a drummer, that's crazy. It's like an hour and a half show. And they're just like, man, who you would never know that they're in their 50s.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Playing punk keeps you young.
Yes.
Particularly drummers.
Yeah, and actually Trey Cool just got married last year, this year, one of those. I don't think he was married before that. But Mike Durton and Billie Joe Armstrong have been married since basically the early days.
Doesn't Billie Joe have a band with his kids, two of his kids?
Oh, I don't know. I know he has another band that is more straightforward punk, actually. Tim, you might like them.
Oh, tell me.
What are they called? I'm sure Wikipedia will tell me. I should know. But yeah, I kind of wanted to touch a little bit on I don't know. I think it's funny that every time Green Day is in the news, there's always some kind of conservative controversy around them because conservatives like them, but they don't realize that they're left-wingers. And it's like, how could you listen to their music and not know that? But they have poked a lot of fun at Trump over the years. They hate the guy. This album had, well, not the album, but they released a promotional T-shirt of his mugshot with the Nimrod sticker over it in 2023. And then they always change that one line in American Idiot to I'm not a part of your MAGA agenda when they play it in concert.
Yeah.
And conservatives get up in arms. They're like, how dare Green Day go political? It's like, guys,
I don't know how anyone can say that about any band that's even like dipped a toe into punk.
Right.
Hey, so do they get like Roger Waters level political in shows, or do they just make references like changing lyrics? Because I can see they have a political bent, but I have a tough time thinking they're just being really polemic from the stage.
Yeah, no, they're very outspoken. I don't know if they used to.
But it's not part of the show, right? When you go see them in concert.
I mean, it's not a part of the show, but I feel like there have been instances during live shows where Billy has said some things. He definitely posts on his social media about politics all the time. And, you know, but I will say, having seen them live, they do a very tight show. Like, it's long, but that's because there's a lot of music. It's very tight. There's very little just extraneous talking. So he'll say one thing here and there about like, we're here to fight for your rights for whatever and all that. But then they'll just start playing. So it doesn't take up much of the time. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. When I'm referencing Roger Waters, he really goes for it. In fact, to the degree that he's had to like leave some South American countries really quickly because of things he said at one of his concerts. So when I'm talking about him and as an example, he's way over the top.
Yeah, I don't know the comparison.
Sorry.
From a songwriting perspective, his songwriting is a lot richer in metaphor and and language things that he does, so that you find that a lot of conservatives didn't realize that Pink Floyd was a political band for most of its existence, at least while Roger Waters was in it, just because of the way that he wouldn't go directly at his politics. He would kind of do imagery that would indicate what he was trying to say politically. Whereas when it sounds like Billy, again, the only album that I know really is this one now, and Billy Joe Armstrong seems to go straight at what he wants to say politically. Mm-hmm. There's no hiding.
Yeah, no, he doesn't really hold back.
Yeah,
hey, Beckett, I looked it up, and Billy Joe and his two sons are basically like a family Green Day, and they do a cover of I Think We're Alone Now. You can find it on YouTube.
Oh, by the way, his Billy Joe's side project that's a more traditional punk band is called Pinhead Gunpowder.
Very punk name.
I love it. Pinhead Gunpowder.
And if it has
they just released a new album last year, actually.
Oh, cool. I'll check it out.
Well, there you go. What kind of music is it?
Punk.
Oh, because he doesn't do enough punk with Green Day?
No,
I think it's more traditional punk as opposed to
more traditional. Yeah. And now, like, if you listen to their later stuff, I wouldn't consider Green Day a punk band with like their newer thing. Like their most recent album, Saviors, is very much leaning into like the rockabilly stuff. There's one song on that is more punk leaning, but it's a very good album. Very, very different. But Billy Joe says that is the one that he's the most proud of. That is his favorite album that they've made.
Cool.
But yeah, we have about 15 minutes left. One thing that I was going to mention was, speaking of like how much more punk they used to be, in their early shows, they would attack the audience, literally. There's a famous video of, and Billy Joe has always been like a very staunch defender of women and women's rights. Yeah. And so if he's catching, sometimes in crowded audiences, people try to cop a feel or whatever. And so he noticed this going on at one of their live shows and called the guy out from the stage and was like, "What the fuck are you doing? I saw you. Where are you going? Like what?" And literally jumped off the stage and drop kicked the guy.
Oh my God. I have a great story like that of seeing the Police and Sting like launching into, it was a Bill Graham show and they were roughing up the crowd and like Sting like getting ready to jump off the stage and just cursing at the guy over a PA over how they were handling his fans.
Mm-hmm. I've seen
It
that.
was amazing.
Yeah. Billy Joe has done a lot of that. He also has let fans come up on stage and play his guitar and like play their songs with the whole band. It's pretty amazing.
Huh.
Oh, wow. I've seen videos of that. There's some videos of that on YouTube too.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know he did it a lot.
He used to do it a lot, like pretty much at every show, at least once. Not so much anymore, but they have a tradition on the Saviors Tour where they would bring up a fan to sing one part of one song from Warning. So that was fun. And it was always like a fan who was like super decked out, like wearing a, Billy Joe outfit or something. So super fan.
Cool.
They know how to find them in the crowd.
Yes.
They're like, the lyrics. Let's go.
Yeah.
Those kinds of things, they're like, I call them wild cards. And I think every gig, I mean, if you play this kind of music, every gig should have a wild card in it, which just means nothing more than something that didn't get rehearsed and couldn't be rehearsed. And so even if the fan comes up and they don't know the words, they don't know the tune, they can't sing, it changes the energy in the room. And then the next songs just like take off. Like the Police were amazing. And then when Sting stopped in the middle of a song and was yelling at Bill Graham over the PA, the songs after that were like, amazing times 10, and that stuff is, even if it doesn't work, it's really cool because it changes the energy. And if you manage it well, it changes it for the better.
I know that they wrote a lot of the songs for this album after canceling an entire tour because they were tired of touring and playing just the same show in a stadium venue to a bunch of people, not knowing if people were going to show up, not being able to see the fans. And so for a lot of this, and actually like a lot of what came after, they played a lot of smaller shows. And I wonder if bringing people up on stage and like doing those wild card events was like their way of keeping it fun so that they didn't get burned out on it again.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. They still do. Like I have not been fortunate enough to be in a pub with them when they start playing, but they do that. Like they'll spontaneously put on a concert for a very intimate amount of people in like a pub or something. They did that while they were in Ireland for their last tour.
Have they brought people on stage at a show that you saw?
Yeah, to sing part of the chorus of.
So what did you think of it? Did you like it? Not so much?
No, it's a cool feature. Yeah, I mean, as a fan, of course, I would want to be the one up on stage. Who doesn't?
One of my buddies, my favorite job of all time was a record store I worked in Modesto. And one of my buddies from that record store got pulled on stage at a John Cougar Mellencamp gig, right? And it was just like the best, just the coolest thing. Plus, the dude could sing. He was in a band and he was like belting it out. It was great.
I came this close to getting to meet Green Day when I was in Seattle. After the Saviors concert, they were kicking around in West Seattle, and it was rumored that they were going to come by a record store that was right down the street from my brother's apartment. And so we went and we waited all day, and they didn't show up.
Uh-oh.
It was very sad.
That was the recent time you went up there?
Yeah, last year. But apparently it's a record store that Billy Joe likes to visit when he's in Seattle. So anyway, I missed them.
But Mom, Billy Joe's going to be there. I have to go.
I'm sorry. I like this band.
I'm just teasing.
I've been thinking about going. Ringo always does his birthday as a publicity event for his charity. And it's always at the Beverly Hills, at this park in Beverly Hills where he's got one of his peace sign things. And I'm like, I've thought about going to that more than once. I don't know how you would get in. Maybe they have bouncers or not, but it's a park, right? It'd be that hard to see.
That would be awesome.
And then he would have a lot of it. The best part is he would have a bunch of his famous friends there. right? So it would be like, you're looking out and is Paul McCartney going to be here? Jim Keltner might be there. It was a drummer reference. Sorry.
That would be a very special experience. One last thing that I wanted to touch on before we kind of give closing thoughts is that I find it very interesting, and this doesn't have to do with this particular album, but talking about kind of like their meteoric rise to stardom, and then kind of it dipped down after Dookie, and they had a really hard time finding their footing after that. Like I mentioned, Warning was very poorly received when it came out, which is the album after this one. And then I think it was 21st Century Breakdown after that. And nobody was like, actually, wait, I don't remember. Which one came after Warning? Wikipedia. Tell me.
Hang on. One of us is supposed to be on Wikipedia.
I don't have the bandwidth to do that right now, unfortunately. Usually I have 2 monitors. Right now.
Oh, American Idiot. American Idiot came out after Warning. So yeah, that makes more sense. So basically what happened was everyone thought they were done after Warning because it was so poorly received, and critically and by fans alike. And they had such a hard time promoting it. They didn't really know where they were going as a band. They wrote an entire album that was supposed to be titled Cigarettes and Valentines, and the masters got stolen out of the studio, and they didn't have backups, so
wow,
it was just gone. And
that's crazy.
Yeah,
the Warning, before Warning or before
after Warning.
After
there was supposed to be another album called Cigarettes and Valentines. They had written, recorded, everything was finished. It was, pretty much ready to be released, but the master tapes got stolen. And Billy Joe took that as a sign that they were not going in the right direction. And they have never revisited or re-recorded those songs.
That's crazy.
And so they took the opportunity to completely shift gears and do one of Billy Joe's Dreams, which is a concept album, which is how we got American Idiot. And that relaunched them back to stardom. And they've been relevant ever since. So very interesting.
U2 had a similar thing, a similar but different thing happened on one of their first couple of albums where they always finished the lyrics last, and Bono had all his lyrics written in a binder, and somebody stole the binder, and he had to rewrite the lyrics for the entire album in a week.
Yeah, well, in this case, they didn't redo any of the songs that we will never hear those songs. They have vowed that they were there, even if they found those tapes, and they are never touching those songs again, because they took it as nope, these are bad, these are wrong. No one should ever hear these.
Bad mojo.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
An American Idiot is so iconic. So it's
it's
sign
really
that
what
signs are real.
It relaunched their career.
Yeah. And they were connecting with, in the years after that is when I was teaching a lot in Portland, and everybody came in. These are usually kids 8 to 12 years old. Everybody came in wanting to learn a Green Day song, right? So they were reaching out to the youngers really effectively.
Yeah.
I think that's actually a joke for Good Riddance, especially, is that it's one of the first songs that young people playing guitar want to learn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, it being an acoustic song, it kind of lends itself to that.
Yeah, it's acoustic and it's iconic.
And it's so good. It's just the lyrics are great. The melody is great. It's a great song.
I actually want to talk about this song briefly before we end because it is a great song, and it's such an outlier in this album, and also just even where they went after this, and just their discography in general. But it was written as a joke song. It was kind of a tongue-in-cheek goodbye to a girlfriend that left him for the Peace Corps.
Right.
And so it's so weird to me how culturally significant it is, and it's played at graduations and funerals and weddings alike. It has this meaning for everybody. I mean, just being able to be played at a wedding and a funeral at the same time
it's a very emotional song. Yeah.
And it's so ambiguous that it can be taken in any direction.
Mhm.
Also, it starts by him just saying fuck.
Yeah. Because he messes up the lick. I love that they kept that in the recording. But yeah, that song is about Amanda, his first girlfriend, before he met his wife. Which a bunch of other songs scattered throughout are as well.
I just wanted to bring it up because it's so in line with what we talk about a lot on our Saturday morning calls.
Interpretation.
Like, interpretation of like what it is that you meant for it to say versus what people interpret from it, because it's such a interpretable song.
Yeah, whereas, you know, the songs on Dookie, there's really only one interpretation.
Yeah. And I think for that alone, Good Riddance deserves a listen in and of itself.
Yeah. So you out there, if you haven't listened to any Green Day anything before, at least listen to Good Riddance.
Just don't go to the other stuff expecting a bunch of that.
Yes. This is an outlier in their entire
only
discography.
Yeah. All right. Well, anybody else have final thoughts they'd like to share?
I'm glad you picked this one because I don't think I ever would have given Green Day a second listen if you hadn't picked this. So, or that you picked any Green Day, because I don't think I would have given them a second listen. So having to do it for this, you know, I enjoyed this album.
Good, glad to hear it.
Yeah, and me learning that Billy Joel was trying to do you know, his version of London Calling, really made me sort of kind of, you know, I don't know about respect them, but it made the band much more interesting to me.
Nice.
He's a very interesting guy, very introspective. He's got a lot of, you know, thoughts about the way he writes music. It's interesting though, because on the Wikipedia page, it's funny. There's a lot of like just very short answers. Well, this song is about this song is about that. Like, but there's always some, you know, deeper stuff behind it.
Yeah, he does. He does seem to think about his lyrics more so. Not that there aren't thoughtful punk songwriters, but I would say at least half of them don't really give the kind of thought that he seems to give to his lyrics. And, you know, I got to admire somebody who has that, you know, level of craft. They're not just, hey, let's just do a punk album. He's, you know, he put some craft into it, and I dig that.
Which is interesting because he never, like, he's not classically trained at all. He never went to a music class. He's all self-taught.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, I think a lot of that speaks to the songwriters, you know, who influenced the songwriters and the bands who influenced him, because you can't go wrong with Joe Strummer for one, you know, from the Clash. You know, and I understand he's influenced by the Ramones and some of the more, you know, when the Ramones are an influence, there's going to be a level of silliness and childishness to some of your work, but you know, that's not the case when you're listening to Joe Strummer and the Clash.
Yeah, in Saviors, you can really hear a lot of the Beatles and Elvis, and how, you know, you can pick up a little bit of that in some of their earlier albums like this one, but yeah, if you're interested to kind of explore where they have ended up as a group and how those influences come out, then that's a good one to listen to.
Yeah, I mean, I do want to go back to those, and I was already thinking about that anyway, because I think we were talking about Nirvana, and I talked about how I liked Bleach more than I did Nevermind, just because there was a level of rawness to it that you know, Nevermind not that Nevermind is overly produced, but it doesn't have that raw feeling that Bleach has. And so, this isn't overproduced either, but it's very well produced. And I would love to hear what they sound in their more, earlier, more rawer period.
Yeah, well, if anybody needs Green Day recommendations, I always love talking about them. So,
really,
yeah, we know someone.
I've never heard you talk about them before.
All right, guys. Well, it's 7:00. Any last thoughts as we wrap it up? Well, I think we covered most of the bases. So thank you out there for watching if you have. And as always, all the things. Catch us on the other side. We'll be back tomorrow with Movie Club. So
it's true. We'll be talking about Donnie Darko.
Yes. That'll be a fun discussion. All right. Good night.
Good night.